Chullin Daf Ayin Beis. We learned yesterday that if somebody swallows two rings, one is Tameh, one is Tahar, they're in his body cavity. The Tahar ring remains Tahar even if it touches the Tameh ring, because of the concept called Tuma Blua, swallow Tuma. If a Tuma is in a hidden, swallowed place, that Tuma doesn't transfer to the other ring. So ask the Gemara, so then what's the difference between the midwife who's assisting the birth? As soon as she touches the baby, the Mishnah says she becomes Tameh. But why? It occurred in a place of Balua. It was in a swallowed place. Why is she any different than a Tahar ring? Says the Gemara, you're right. Midaraisa, she should be completely Tahar. The reason why she's Tameh is only Exeri the Rabbanan. The Rabbanan were worried that the baby will come out a little bit, become Tameh, and then go back in. This goes according to Rabbi Shmuel, who says that a baby is completely Tahar. Even according to Rabbi Shmuel, that the baby is completely Tahar, we still make a Gzeira that she is Tameh. And why is the mother any different? Because for the mother, she didn't touch the dead baby. The baby's within inside her, in its tumas beis hastarim. That's not mitama her. Now, maybe we should make a gzera that once the baby comes out and then goes back in, she should become tameh. Well, she knows when the baby comes out. She feels it. But she doesn't have the time or the mindset to give that information over to the midwife, and that's why we regazer only on the midwife. Now, who's Mechol Rabbi Shmuel? Rabbi Shmuel says a baby with inside a mother's stomach, even if the baby's dead, is completely tar. Rabbi Kiva says completely tameh, and he brings a pasuk as a pasuk. To learn this, it's actually a three-step process, three psukim. The pasuk says, "Kol nafshois meis," all the souls of a dead person. Now, a dead person usually only has one soul. So what's this plural lashon? Says Rabbi Kiva, it's referring to that blood of a dead person, a revius, has tuma just like a limb of a dead person. Says Rabbi Kiva that nafshis means even if the blood came from two dead people, a half of a revius from one and a half of a revius of the other, they combine to make one revius. Rabbi Shmuel's Mechulik, he says Yashem L'Sayr, it's not true, it has to be from one person. Now, since Rabbi Kiva learns from Kol Nafshis Meis that is talking about a revius, so the pasuk b'meis b'nefesh is completely extra. He learns from that, and that's our sugya. B'meis, there's a dead person, bin nefesh, in a soul. How do you have a dead person in a soul? Says Rabbi Kiva, you have a dead baby within its mother. And here you see that that baby is mitama. And therefore, the third pasuk, Pnei Sada, is extra according to Rabbi Kiva. Pnei Sada, Rabbi Kiva learns, comes to say that a goylel and a doifek, meaning the cover of a coffin and the sides of the coffin have the same halacha as a dead person itself. In other words, if one were to take a cover of a coffin that had a dead person in the coffin and put that cover inside a room, everything in the room becomes tameh tumas oil, just like a dead person himself. Tremendous chiddush. Says the Mishnah. We know, as we said in the beginning of the parak, that if you shech the mother, the baby is mutar ba'achila, it's called a ben pekua. If the baby stuck out its foot before you had the opportunity to shech the mother, that foot is considered aver min achai, and it has tuma like an avela. The tum is called aver min achai tuma. Very interesting question. You have here a situation where you have a baby, a calf, its foot is tamei, tumas nevela, the rest of the body is not. Does the tuma transfer from its foot to the rest of the body? Well, if you cut off the foot while the baby was still alive, then there was no way for the tuma to transfer, because a live animal is not susceptible to tuma. If the baby was dead when you cut the foot off, in other words, you shechted the mother and the baby is dead, and the baby is mutar b'achila, but now you want the tuma to transfer from the foot to the baby, to the rest of the body. Does it transfer? The answer is, according to Rameir, it transfers at a very high level of tuma called tumas nevela. According to the Chachamim, almost no tuma at all, called tumas treifa. Treifa is really not tameh; it's only tameh midrabanan when it's regarding kachim. Now, the question is, how exactly does the tuma transfer? What's the problem? The problem is, if you have two things touching, the inside part is hidden. This part is hidden. So when they're touching, they're not really touching, they're touching, but you don't see where they're touching. And when you separate them, when you cut it, they no longer touch. So how do they have the power to transmit tuma one to the other, from the foot to the rest of the animal? There's two answers. Ula says, you're right, it doesn't really transfer naturally. It transfers while you cut. When you cut, it's inevitable that one piece will rub against the other piece as you remove it. That's one shot. And that's why it fits very well into the Mishnah, where the Mishnah says you cut the limb, and that's to tell us that that's when the tumah transfers. According to Ravina, you don't have to come on to cutting. Anything that's about to be cut is as if you cut it. So therefore, this limb you're going to cut, because it's tumas naveli, you want to get rid of it, so it's as if it's cut already. We find the same halacha by a kli that you want to bring to the mikvah. Let's say somebody's wife tells him, go out and buy me a frying pan. And he goes out and buys a frying pan with a broom handle. He comes home and his wife says, what are you, crazy? She says, yeah, you're right, I'm going to cut the handle. But before he cuts the handle, he goes to the mikvah with it, and he tries to get it into the kelim mikvah. And it doesn't work. According to Rameir, it's fine. You don't have to put the whole handle in the mikvah, because you're going to come home, and if you know what's good for you, you're going to cut that handle. So therefore, even though now it's not cut, there's no tumah. It's enough to be toivel whatever part you are going to have at the end. According to Chachamim, no, you have to be toivel the whole thing. Says the Gemara, well, even according to Chachamim, that you have to be toivel the whole thing, maybe over here in our sugya, they will admit that by food there's a concept called, and here's the concept for the whole shas, according to Chachamim, chavurei oichlin keman demafrse. It's any time that it comes to food, everything is separated, even though they're connected, it's as if they are separated. Now, just going back to the Mishnah says that a treifa, once you shecht a treif animal, let's say it has a hole in its heart, you shecht it, the shechita is good enough to get rid of the tum on the animal. Yes, you're right, you can't eat the animal, but there's no more tum on the animal. Says the Mishnah, it's not similar to shechting a non-kosher animal. You shecht a lion, never in its lifetime, or any of its family's lifetime, does shechita work. But in an animal that's treif, even maybe before it became a treifa, you were able to shecht it, but certainly its family members, you could shecht. Shechita works. Once shechita works, says Rashi, shechita never comes off of it. So the shechita will work to remove tumah from it. Remeir says, yes, shechita works to remove treifa, the tumah, but it only works for the mother and not for the limb of the fetus. One more halacha that the Gemara discusses brings in part of the Shakti V'Tayr, but it's important to know, is the halacha of tumas medrus. If you have a piece of cloth that's 3 by 3 tefachim, and it's roy for somebody to sit on and stand on, the halacha is that if you have a zav or a nida that stand on it, put their body weight on it, then that beged becomes tummy. What if you rip that beged in half? Then the tumah disappears, the tumas medrus. However, the Gemara says that Rameir holds, it's possible Rameir holds that even though it's hidden, like we said, the place where it was cut was hidden, he might hold that tumas beis hasarim does give tumah. So when you cut it, you're right, the medrus flies away, but now it's as if it touched medrus. It's a much lower tumah called maga medrus, but it touched. Or we can learn differently, that the only time you have maga medrus is if a zav stepped on it with his feet barefoot. Meaning there's two tumas that occurred here. One from his weight, and one from him actually touching it. So when you cut it, the weight tumah, the medrus disappears. But the touching tumah, which is a much lower tumah, it's only a rishon that could only be metama food and not people in kelim, that remains.